Welcome to the show. This is our Raven profile, and we're going to start right off the bat with somebody who has her fingerprints on campus probably all year long, helps a lot of people get through the process of becoming a college student and graduating and taking care of all the behind-the-scenes work. And with me is Pam Feerer. You run financial aid here, right?
I am the director of financial aid, yes.
That's the fancy title, right?
Yes, that is it, yes.
I forget that I'm technically the director of digital communication. It's just I'm the broadcast guy, so sometimes I forget. Director, you've earned that title. You've been at Coffeyville for... you've had a long influence over Coffeyville.
Yes.
Can we start with where you got your start?
I forget sometimes how long I have been here, but I started at Southeast Kansas Technical School, and that is our tech campus back when it was its own school, as a part-time worker in 1995. And I wore many hats there. I first started doing coordinating nighttime or night classes. And then I started doing admissions and enrollments and student accounts, and eventually I landed in the financial aid office. And when the tech campus merged with Coffeyville Community College, I came over here in 2001, and I've been here ever since.
How has the financial aid process, how has that evolved over the last?
Oh my goodness. Financial aid has changed so much over the years, some good. Some not so good changes, but we just learn to roll with it and work with it and hope that we can help the students through the journey.
Now, I look like I'm in college now. I haven't been out of college long, but when I was going through financial aid, was or money stuff, whatever. But What exactly do you guys do over there?
We deal with the whole entire process, and that includes scholarships, but also federal aid, and the process of applying for federal aid, doing the FAFSA, and then guiding the students through the process of, finishing their financial aid awards, which is Pell Grant, student loans, work study. We help them find jobs in work study positions, fill out the application for student loans. We sometimes counsel them on, how much they might need to borrow for student loans, and then we also disperse funds, which means that we're releasing the funds to the student's account or that process. So there's a lot to it. Then we also have to make sure that they maintain their eligibility, so they'll come and visit with us. Okay, what happens if I drop a class? So some people think that financial aid is just you apply, you get your financial aid, and you're done. But the financial aid process is an ongoing process that lasts all year long. And sometimes we deal with 2 to 3 years at one time because we're still in the current year and we're still dealing with our students that are on campus, but the students that are going to come next year are already filing for financial aid for next year. So we're actually doing 2 years at once.
There's a lot of behind the scenes action that has to go on.
Yes, lots of that.
I think when most people think of a college, they think of students, teachers, sports teams probably, and then like the president. But that sounds like you guys have your fingerprints all over to make everything run correctly.
We feel like we do. I know that. We feel like we do. Sometimes I may not know a student when I see their face, but then when I hear their name, I'm like, oh gosh, because I have touched that student so many times, with scholarship, with loans, with Pell Grant, with work study, with, so many different things that I feel like I know everyone on campus. Yes.
Especially for a campus, I think Coffeyville is a small campus in terms of colleges in general, but it's a busy campus.
Very busy, yes.
So can you talk about where are you from exactly?
I grew up in Caney, Kansas.
Okay, so local.
Yes.
We claim you.
Yes, born and raised Caney, Kansas. So Caney Bullpups, yeah.
And how did you end up in Coffeyville working for CCC, I guess the tech campus at first and then transition over? How did you...
Actually, the gentleman that was the director of the tech campus at the time that I was hired was from Caney. He had Caney roots. So actually went to my church. I knew who he was, and I ended up, working there part-time, and then it evolved into a full-time position.
So classic kind of small town.
Yes, definitely.
Kind of the joys of just Southeast Kansas type of thing. And You mentioned the evolution of kind of financial aid in your job. So you as the director, is there anything, I guess, are you just an overseer, or is there anything specific that you do in your job that is unique to you and something that you really enjoy?
Well, because I've not always been the director, I've done, I believe, everything in the financial aid office I have done at one time or the other. And now I still do all of those things at different times. So I want to make sure that I stay in touch with all of the different aspects of financial aid. And we kind of, in the financial aid office, there's 3 of us, and it just kind of naturally has, evolved into this person does this mainly and that sort of thing. But I try to stay connected with every aspect and do that. But yes, overseeing and doing federal reporting and things like that would be one of those things that just, I do myself.
When I started here, it was weird to think of me as a leader. Just, they're like, you're the director, you have to be a leader.
Yes.
Do you consider yourself a leader? And what do you think of just about, if you do, I guess, what's your leadership style?
Well, I would hope my leadership style is very relaxed and welcoming, and I think that I try to be the best leader that I can be, just by maybe leading by example, or being open to suggestions, or that sort of thing. Letting the person that actually does the task take ownership of that task. I feel like that's kind of been my leadership style. Is okay, how do you see this task? How can we improve on this task? Or, those type of things. Let them take ownership of it.
And did that come from the way you've worked when you weren't director a little bit?
Coming from experience, yes. Yeah. I think that if you're able to take ownership of what you do and take pride in that, you're going to naturally do a better job, be more productive. So, yeah.
In the last handful of years, I think the way people communicate has kind of really changed.
Definitely.
What is that like for you guys? Because I'm not saying the forms haven't changed, but getting down to making sure kids are financially taken care of, how has that changed?
Yes, communicating with students I feel like it's kind of been a challenge for us, because we're sending letters through postal mail, and students they're not opening that mail. They're not getting that. Yes, no. Students are just not, responding to that. So we're still trying to find that, the best way to get to our students and to communicate with those students, and still trying to figure that out. But it has definitely changed. The whole social media, it's definitely changed the way that we need to communicate with students.
Because I feel like social media is an informal way to communicate, and financial aid sounds really serious. Like, it's a formal thing.
Yes.
So you want to have a more formal. Plus, it's usually dealing with parents as well, trying to get everything.
Yes.
So it's like they probably like mail, or at least an email.
Yes, and that is one thing, because I feel like, communicating with a parent, which I feel like is important with financial aid, because you're asking for parents, information on the FAFSA and financial aid process. But communicating with the parent, we want to do that much differently than we communicate with the students. And we have tried to, when we send out emails, maybe not be so formal in our greetings with the students. So maybe they're looking at that email and we're getting their attention.
Is there a normal day for the director of financial aid?
I always come in and I think, this is what I'm going to do for the day, and it's never, that never ever happens, because there's always some sort of situation that has to be dealt with immediately, or needs my attention. So I don't think there ever is a normal day, and that's okay. I like that. Yeah.
Well, I like the idea that just not having a normal day is, I guess that would be normal then, right?
Right. It does, kind of break up the monotony. So I do kind of like that. Yeah.
So at the end of a semester, are you busier than normal? Is it just a different kind of busy?
It's a different kind of busy. We are looking at academic progress, and we are also looking at students that are coming for next semester and making sure that all of their paperwork's in place, their awards are in place. And we're also gearing up for, the fall semester. So it's a different kind of busy. The students have left campus and it's kind of quieted down, but, the paperwork is still there.
Do you get many students in your office throughout the year?
I do, but I will say that's one of the things that I miss. I don't have that connection maybe as much with the students, and that is something that I've missed. And just this last week, I was visiting with my staff about what can I do to make sure that I'm still building those relationships with the students, because that's what I love about my job. I'm not crazy about looking at tax returns and doing all of that paperwork. It's the connection, with the students and the gratification of feeling like that you've helped them.
It's the people part.
Yes. That's definitely.
Now, do you have work study in financial aid?
Yes, we do.
So at least you get to kind of work with maybe on a more personal basis there.
Yeah, and I do still, I'm not saying that I don't see students at all. I'm just kind of in the back, and so the students usually stop at another desk before they get to me, and I usually wind up with the students that are having the most difficulty, and that's okay. But I do still miss that every single day, meeting a student and building a relationship.
It does seem the way your offices are laid out in financial aid, it's almost like a level progression. So
kind
it's
of
like,
is.
okay, you talk to one, then you get to the next person, and then you get to finally
kind of like that.
to you. And it's like, well, by that point, I'm sure you have to see some frustrations every now and then.
Definitely that. And sometimes, a coach will just automatically send, or, an activity sponsor, or someone on campus will just automatically send a student to see me because they know they've had some issues or could have some potential issues. So, yes, I still see that. But it is a level, I think, like you said, yes.
Well, and that's something where at a small school like a junior college, they can talk to you directly. Is that something that you really like about Coffeyville?
Yes. I've always said, I want my door open to all students. I've had people say to me before, well, when you're busy, just close your door. But I don't like that. I want to make sure that my door is open to students and they know that they can, step in just to say hi. And I've told students that before, when I meet them at the beginning of the semester and someone comes in and I meet them, I always say, stop in and let me know how you're doing, because, I do want to see those students. I want to make sure my door is open to them always.
I guess that's probably comes from when you didn't have a door.
That's right. That's right. I've worked in situations where I did not have a door and didn't even have an office, just, an area. And yeah, it is harder to get things done, but I do appreciate, having that constant contact and, seeing the students all the time.
Well, that comes from, colleges in some ways are kind of like businesses, but the whole point of a college is for the students to grow, and not even just in the classroom. That's what I always kind of thought was, you did a lot of learning outside the classroom.
For sure.
Taking care of your financial aid's about as big of a lesson as you can learn, and sometimes we do sometimes go like, well, I have 8,000 projects that need to be done this hour. So it would be great if I could close my door, but you get that one kid to come through the door that you might make their day.
Right.
And it's like, you got to kind of, where's the gray area in that?
Yeah, that's true. One of the things that I've always told my staff is sometimes when we're busy, it is easy to maybe when a student comes up to have that, look like, oh gosh, what do you want, or whatever. And sometimes we get the same question over and over and over, but I've always said to my staff that may be the 50th time you've heard that question today, but you have to remember that's the first time that each student has asked that question, so we don't want to have that face on, when they walk up. So hopefully we have that, I don't know, reputation or whatever, but...
Yeah, when I started working here, again, I went to school here, but I'm from Coffeyville, and my parents were very heavily, so I never really had to go through a lot of the paperwork and everything like that.
Yeah.
But starting working here, it was always the reputation of financial aid. Not to make your guys' ego too big, but it was always, you guys were awesome to work with.
Oh, I appreciate hearing that.
So that's small campus, that you can get a reputation like that, I guess.
That's true. It doesn't take long, if you have a bad experience, maybe one student has a bad experience, and it doesn't take long for that, to get around. So hopefully that, we can maintain that relationship with the students.
When a semester starts, like even a fall semester, like it's crazy, it's hectic, and everybody's running around and nobody.
Yes.
Can you dig in more of that, or did I nail it right off the top?
That's pretty much it. It's just chaos when we come back. It's kind of a controlled chaos. That's what we hope for. We know it's going to be chaos, but if we can control the chaos,
Well, how's that preparing to control the chaos? I guess, how does that process changed over the years?
I don't know that it has. I mean, I'm not sure that it's changed. We always have that because I feel like we have so many. Well, like you were from Coffeyville and your parents helped you through the process, but we have so many out-of-state students who come and they don't have their parents with them to help them through that process. So we are, that help for the student and that assistance for the student. So I think that maybe makes it a little bit chaotic for the student and for all of us. But
it's almost like you're temporary guardian for that 20 minutes they're in there, the 2 seconds, the hour.
Yes. Yeah, it depends on what their situation is, on how long it takes to get through the process. But that's true. And that may be the student's first ever, dealing with financial aid or, paperwork of that kind. So, yes.
Now, I don't want to get too personal, but you're not the only person on campus with the last name of Feer.
That's true.
So,
that's true.
How has it been working just how was that experience?
I enjoy the fact that we both work here. It's something that we share. And he, coached soccer for years. And so that was fun to watch and, be a part of. Because I felt like I was a part of, that. And, he took his team to nationals. And so, he kind of has a different perspective of each student. And so sometimes we're, talking about the students and, I met this, and this student today in my office. And Corey will also say, I have him in class. He's such a cool kid. And so, we're able to exchange stories about work and about the people that we meet. And if we didn't both work here, we wouldn't have that. I would be talking about somebody that he doesn't know, and that still happens because I'll talk about financial aid, and not everybody understands financial aid, and so I'm sure he might snooze at that point.
You can start talking about all the different forms they got to fill out, and
and he's just
soccer formations,
snoozing at that point. Yeah.
I had, and see, I have not been here long enough to not call him Mr. Feer.
Mr. Feer.
I just because that's how I had him in class.
Yes.
Brad Weber was the same way. I worked in the same department with him for a year, and it took me about 3 months to not call him Mr. Weber. But it's as that's I think an advantage of working for somewhere like Coffeyville, a small town, a small community, and a small campus where it's because I know he would bring up just how he loved being able to have family on campus. And I think that helps the idea of the campus wanting to be a family a little bit.
I think it does too. Yes, for sure. We've had kids that have gone through Coffeyville Community College as well. So, yes, I feel like we are one big family, So
when they're complaining about their sociology teacher,
that's right.
it's awkward.
It is awkward. Well, yes, if they're complaining about I just say take it up with your sociology teacher.
He's got office hours from
that's right.
So what is something that is maybe took you by surprise that you really liked when you found out when you started working here that you just really enjoy?
Maybe the diversity. I really enjoy that. A couple of weeks ago, there was a student in my office, and he was telling me about his experience in New York City. And he had gone to school there, and he was telling me about, some of the travels that he took. And at the very end of the semester, he stopped sitting in the dorm room, and he went out and went on some adventures. And he just had some really interesting stories. And when I was at the tech campus, it was generally just students from this area that went to the tech campus. That was before we had merged. And so coming here, I think the diversity is one of the things that I enjoyed the most, is getting to connect with those students from all over the place who have all of these wonderful stories and yes, that's what I've enjoyed the most.
They talk a lot about how, teachers are supposed to shape lives and administration, but have the students changed you at all over the years?
Oh, I'm sure. And I used to be very shy and very introverted, and I'm still maybe just a little bit that way, but I feel like, what I do every day has definitely had an impact on me. I think it definitely defines who I am. Yes.
It's hard to be introverted and have an open door policy.
And that's true. But they've brought me out of my shell. I've had to, learn to maybe be a little more assertive. And yes, definitely they've changed me. Yes.
That's what threw me when I came back. I started working here was people were looking at me like, oh, you're in charge. I'm like, when did that happen?
Yes. Now what do I do?
Because as of 5 years ago, I was looking at everybody on campus as, no, you're in charge.
Yes.
So, and I guess you're a veteran of CCC enough that you've probably had students come through it like me and now work here.
That is so cool. I've had that experience several times while I've been here at Coffeyville, and that is so cool. It is interesting to see the student grow, but not just to see the student grow while they're here, but to see the student grow, leave here, and then come back here. That's pretty cool.
And that's something that it just struck me just being here. Now I've been here a year and a half, and it's like, just things change, but it changes in a nice, like, cohesive manner a lot of times.
Yes.
I think,
yes,
which is something that's, I don't know that a lot of places have. I haven't been a lot of places, but I don't know that that's everywhere.
No, and I've been here a very long time too, so I don't have a whole lot to compare it to, except for hearing my friends and other people talk about, their positions and their employment, and I feel very fortunate to be here. Yes, I do.
Not that you have a crystal ball on your desk or you brought it with you, but have you seen any trends kind of in your job and anything like that, and maybe in your field, that might be a hint of what might be changing?
Well, I just always prepare myself for some type of change. I don't know what the change is going to be, but I know every year something's going to change. I don't really know that I can speak to anything that might be out on the horizon for financial aid, but stay tuned because something always is changing.
The forms change, the lingo changes, and
the requirements,
and that's something where I think you guys are very specialized in that. Because if I don't understand something, which is a lot, there's a lot I don't understand, but it's just like we rely on you guys so much. Yeah. Does that ever get stressful?
Oh, it can. It can definitely get stressful. And more so at different, times of year when, we're busy or whatever. It can definitely get stressful, but hopefully we can just help the student through the process and not show our stress so much outwardly,
Well, that comes from, I guess, every single year you try to get better at that, right? We
do try to get better. I feel like, the ladies that work for me do an awesome job. They both have their strengths, and I feel like we've found their strengths and play to those strengths. So that is important, is having a good staff. Yes.
Well, on that note, how would you, other than the compliments you already given, how would you describe your team?
Andrea is, she's at the front desk. She kind of handles most of the traffic that comes through, and she relates very well to the student. I feel she's very relatable. She's younger, and maybe that helps a little bit, but she is very relatable to the students. I think the students all enjoy coming in and visiting with her. Robin is in the she's at the second desk before you get to mine, right after Andrea's, when we were talking about the levels. And she's very analytical, and she takes care of so many of those fine details, and is great at that. I rely on her a lot to find those mistakes when we're, she has an accounting background, and so she is very, very good at verification and reconciling and things like that. So I have a great staff.
Well, then what about you?
I think I just balance them both out. That's what I hope that I can do, is balance them both out and hopefully maintain, a little bit of fun while we're doing some of that
Well, you
boring
got to.
financial aid
You gotta have
paperwork.
fun.
We try. Yeah.
And then bring that back to anybody that needs it, right? Students and everything. Because you guys, and you're also right next to the registrar. So
Yes.
does the fun ever kind of go their direction? Or
Oh
anything?
yeah, for sure. I think the fun's all, we try to share the love and the fun, and definitely, kind of where we're at, we can hear a little bit of the registrar's conversation, so I know that they can hear our conversation. So, yeah, we have some fun.
Well, on that note, I appreciate you for coming in
Thanks, Zach.
and talking about it. I've had fun. I hope it's been enjoyable
It
for you.
has. It has. I appreciate it.
And we really thank you for coming by, and we are just excited and so thankful that you're a part of this community.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep. Have a good one.